All right, well, welcome everyone to our technical workshop, Campus Digital Twins, Improving Operations with Spatial Data Integrations. I'm Justin Anderson, Smart Campus Operations Lead on the education team here at Esri. My goal is to support campuses around the world utilizing GIS to operate more efficiently and effectively. My focus is primarily in the facility, utility, and public safety space and solutions for campuses in those areas. We also have Brian Baldwin, Senior Solution Engineer on the education team, who also focuses on Smart Campus Ops. Today, we're going to spend some time talking about the digital twin concept and what it means for campuses. As universities, colleges, and K through 12 work to digitally transform, we want to help you better understand the value GIS brings and some of the operational challenges it helps solve. As many of you know, campuses operate like small cities, so there's lots of buildings, assets, personnel, and data to keep track of. And this is all kind of part of our digital twin concept. Let's go to the next slide, Brian. All right, so just a quick background. Again, I'm Justin Anderson. I'm our Smart Campus Operations Lead here on the education team. I've been with Esri approximately 7 years, primarily in professional services, managing our tech consulting business. And I transitioned to the education team this year to focus on Smart Campus Operations. We also have Brian. Brian, you want to do a quick background intro?
Sure. Great to see everybody here. Thanks for joining the webinar. Name is Brian Baldwin. Been with Esri for about 8 years and on the education team supporting both operations side as well as helping support on the academic side with a focus on planning and engineering. But great to be here today and look forward to any questions or anything else people might have.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. All right, next slide. All right, so a quick look at today's agenda. I'll kick things off by reviewing the concept of a digital twin and some of the challenges it can help address on campuses. Then Brian's going to take over and walk you through some examples in the campus facility, utility, and public safety areas. And then I will wrap things up, reviewing some of our Esri resources that you can utilize to help align with our Esri team, our Esri solutions, along with some actions that you can take if and when you'd like to get started. And then at the end, we'll open things up for Q&A. All right, Brian, next slide. Thanks. So just a little housekeeping here. All microphones will be muted during the presentation. If you have any questions, as Alexa mentioned earlier, please enter them into the chat box. We do have staff monitoring those questions. We'll get back to you either via the chat box or during the Q&A session here at the end. We're hoping to have 5 or 10 minutes for Q&A. And we will make the workshop and slides available to everyone following all the presentations this week. All right, Brian, next slide. Thanks. So as many of you know, hopefully, ArcGIS connects different types of data and systems to create a single authoritative view that can be accessed by a variety of users on your campuses. GIS enhances data capture and integration. It enables better real-time visualization. It provides advanced analysis and automation. And it allows for information sharing and collaboration. These are all critical to digital transformation and the digital twin concept. So what is a digital twin? Next slide, Brian. A digital twin is a virtual representation of the real world, including physical objects, processes, relationships, and behaviors. GIS creates digital twins of the natural and built environments and uniquely integrates many types of digital models. They provide greater context to solve business challenges by creating relationships and streamlining workflows. And ArcGIS technology is at the foundation of any digital twin. It interconnects information, systems, models, and behaviors with spatial context, creating holistic digital representation of environments, assets, networks, and complete campuses. Next slide, Brian. So what are the problems that a digital twin can solve? Let's look at 3 key areas. First, historical record or baseline data. So we think of this as a system of record. Most GIS professionals are already experts at using ArcGIS as a system of record. Basically, they use it to collect, manage, and compile geospatial information in maps, which represent reality in an intelligible way and allows for better analysis and more sound decision-making. We can also look at operational performance monitoring. So this is like a system of engagement. System of engagement starts with communication and connecting people in real time using smart and geographically aware devices. It is a move to enable and empower more people, including students, faculty, and staff, with the information they need. It allows stakeholders to maintain and visualize the information they need, and more importantly, when they need it. We can also look at testing or predicting future outcomes. So a system of insight. A system of insight facilitates organizing, transforming, and analyzing your data. With analytics, you can discover anomalies in your data. You can evaluate trends and even integrate non-spatial data, all resulting in actionable information. All right, next slide, Brian. So what are common areas where digital data is critical for efficient management on a campus? As they slowly pop up on the board here, I'm sure many of you realize this is just a small subset of areas where information is critical and a single authoritative source is imperative to making quick and accurate decisions. For most campuses, the main questions are, what do we have? Where is it located? And what condition is it in? As you can imagine, this covers a variety of data sources, personnel, and workflows, right? So when we think about these, we think about where are rooms located within specific buildings? What assets are in those rooms? How's space being allocated? What is the percent of utilization within those spaces? What changes can be made for better space utilization? Where are the work orders on campus? Have they been assigned or completed? Who have they been assigned to? What trash recycling bins are the most utilized? Where's that shutoff valve that you need in case of a water main break? So as you can see, there's just a number of examples and questions that we come across that if campuses have the right data and they're using the right tools, they can easily access this information, make key updates, and quickly disseminate the information to the right people. So we hear these questions all the time, and the digital twin concept helps answer them by integrating all of these data sources from multiple departments and multiple people into a single authoritative source. Some campuses actually already have digital twins. They may have more than one digital twin. So they may have information around utilities, or they may have information around specific assets. But in most cases, they don't have the common theme that ArcGIS brings to the table, and that is pulling all of that information together into one platform. So to give some examples and show some demos, I'm going to turn things over to Brian to walk you through some things that we've seen and bring a little bit more light to this area. Brian, it's all yours, man.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Justin. So Justin touched on 3 kind of target key areas that I'm going to walk through: facilities, utilities, and public safety. And for each of these, and in general, the one thing that I want everyone to think of and keep in mind, and something that Justin and I have talked about a lot with customers, is the fact that a digital twin doesn't mean that your technology needs to be at a fully real-time awareness of everything that is taking place on campus. They can start with something that is very easy in terms of a project to get started with, and that can be some of that foundational information that Justin mentioned in terms of a system of record. And then it's about starting to get that information out to more users. And so that's going to be the general flow for the story along each of these in facilities, utilities, and public safety. How can we just get started? And how can we also start to get more value out of that information getting out, either through different kinds of insights or analytics, and also how can you better get that information out to people to engage with it? So when you think of facility information and making that available to more users and starting to get a true digital twin of that data, all this really comes down to is moving from that piece of paper or from that static data that you've maintained for years now, either in CAD or even in GIS, and now starting to get that out to more users, more people, and allow more functionality for either data collection or ways that you can get that information to other groups and other users across campuses. And there's a whole host or wealth of data and information. And so it's about how do you start to just get that out to more people? And so for each of these, I'm going to kind of introduce the concept, jump to a demo, come back, and then kind of rinse and repeat. So let's jump over to a demonstration. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about on the facility side is almost laughably simple, but it starts to set that foundation for users so that you start to get that digital representation of your space and where these things exist. So what I have up on the screen is just a very basic campus map showing my buildings, in this case filtered for one building, and the location of the AEDs inside of that building. And if I pick a floor and filter this, I'm now going to see the AEDs just on that floor. And now I have the floor kind of filtered to show me just that floor 0. And so in a very simple viewer here, and this is something that anyone could deploy with the basic indoor model, could be deployed with a dashboard, mobile tools. This is just a configuration to be able to now put these kinds of tools in the hands of your users across a campus. And it's just the place where you can get started. Stepping up from there is starting to get more integrations with your facilities information and starting to get more awareness for that data out to more people so that you can start to make more decisions and start to get more information out to more users. One example of that is getting that facility information deployed into ArcGIS Indoors. And so ArcGIS Indoors provides a full solution to be able to provide mobile applications or web browsers and then manage all of that interior space information that you have on your campus. So as I zoom in here to this one building, I'll start to get some labels for these offices and these places. I can sort each of these by floor. I can get directions to various buildings and locations on campus, all of it with accessible directions and routing for ADA compliance if I need to. So let's click on one office here. And we'll end up routing ourselves from here to another location. So I can click on the map, set my start location. Can also do my drop down. You can see here for the accessibility options, either walking or wheelchair. And here come the names and kind of office locations getting loaded in. Then the other pieces here of information that you can start to incorporate and do integrations with to get that true kind of digital twin real-time representation for what's taking place. This ability to integrate your Office 365 calendars, to be able to see events and locations and staff in real time for what availability looks like. And as you take that baseline data model or that information and you want to share this out to more users or different kinds of communities on campus, you can get different uses and use cases for that information of how it can start to be utilized. One example of that is just getting a view of your work orders. So if I want to see where work orders are being issued on campus, how they're being managed, a breakdown for the type of work orders, this is simply a configuration to be able to get a view of all of those work orders inside of one space. using, again, the GIS as that system of record to pull all of this information together into. And at the furthest end of the spectrum on the facilities side, you can start to think of the real-time incorporations and the real-time feeds that you can begin to plug into your GIS. So here, if I zoom in, what we're doing is we're actually driving the symbology for each of the rooms based on their real-time occupancy. So if you have Wi-Fi networks, or if you're using an indoor positioning system, or if you even want to do this kind of symbology driven off of the connections to Wi-Fi hubs or routers, you can get it at a less fine-grained level of detail, but you can start to get the same kind of information and intelligence. And obviously during COVID and in kind of the next year or so, the post-COVID time, as we're still grappling with this, the need and necessity to understand occupancy and what that looks like in real time has so much more value. So we just looked at the first pillar of facilities. And there's been a number of use cases and schools and places where they've had a lot of success with this. So the first one I wanted to mention was Ohio State. So Ohio State was having difficulty sharing information and collaborating between campus departments, which is a pretty typical use case that we hear. And so what they ended up doing is deploying ArcGIS Enterprise as an asset management system to help them collect, manage, and analyze their information related to their assets for planning, design, and construction. And in the screenshot here, you can see the ways that in a mobile device or in an iPad, users can now actually load up the photos for specific assets and the location of where those things are. You could link drawings, you could link plans, any other information to more tightly integrate what actually exists in the physical world with that digital representation of it. And all administrators want to know what the return on investment for these kinds of solutions are. And so Ohio State, right off the bat, saw $133,000 in upfront savings and then $88,000 annually in a return. Another example on the facility side, and one that I have loved to see and watch kind of the growth and the way that they've deployed the technology, has been Michigan State. And we've mentioned them a few times in a couple webinars, and there's a lot of great work that they're doing. But just one example of this was around litter management and their bins on campus. So they had been emptying their bins and emptying the litter and the waste receptacles in the same way, and kind of just going on kind of the historical process for how they would do those. But there was no data related to how often or when they should actually empty those receptacles. So what they did is they used a mobile tool to go out and collect and see where and when bins were being serviced, and then fed all of that information up to dashboard to be able to see in near real time where those bins are being used, when they're being serviced, and the most important, to actually look at the historical trends for that kind of work that was being done in those locations. So now there might be a bin out next to a softball field or in a location that was very close to another one that didn't need to be serviced as regularly, and in many cases could just be removed. And so some of the savings that they saw as a result for this was almost $445,000. This cost dropped down in half. So a 50% decrease in labor and equipment costs. And one of the things that they've said that's been a huge benefit of this is taking a lot of that time, and rather than having people just commit it to a rote path where they're emptying bins, they can now do things that are adding more value to the campus. So that was the facilities side. The next piece I wanted to touch on briefly is utilities. There are a number of different ways that campuses can start to model and represent their utility data, again, at the far end of the spectrum in near real time, with the positions of valves or flow rates, and all of that information can be modeled and pushed into a GIS. Or you can start to do it on a much simpler end of the spectrum as well. And this is where people should really just look at getting started, is knowing where those things are, especially underground pipes and valves on the campus, and trying to get as accurate of a representation of where those things are as possible. And so the ArcGIS solutions let you do this, from a level of just knowing where things are, seeing connectivity, and also getting down to a level of containment. What is inside of this station? What is actually in the ground here in this vault? And see what those devices are down to a very fine-grained level of detail. So I'm going to show a quick demonstration of a little bit of what this can look like. So the first place I wanted to steer people to and just push out more of a PSA reminder is the fact that if you look for and you Google or you search and use your choice of search engine, ArcGIS solutions, there's a number of templates that you can take and download and install that give you data models, pre-configured dashboards, data sets, mobile collection tools for a wide range of use cases. And the ones that we're focusing on here are around utilities. But you can see in my dropdown, there's a number of others. None of them specifically say education, but almost any one of these could be taken and configured or tweaked to meet the needs of operations in higher education. And for those that are sitting on this call that are not in operations, some of these can be taken and used in lesson plans and in classes as well. Some of these for mobile data collection or analysis. There's a number of really good examples that with one click, you could have students out in the field collecting data and capturing information. So the two here I would point you to are water distribution data management for ArcGIS Online, and the same thing, but for ArcGIS Enterprise. The first one gives you a simple data model to go and just start capturing your utility information on a campus. And we have this deployed for gas, electric, water, a number of different utility types. So go and look at the site and see what's available. There's also a similar network model available for ArcGIS Enterprise that takes a bit more time and a bit more legwork to deploy, but provides a bit more functionality in terms of connectivity for a network. So what can this start to look like when you deploy it? So this is just one example showing a water treatment plant. And what we've done here is model the plant. And for any of the assets inside of this model that are a part of this network, or these could be simple points that are just deployed in using the ArcGIS Online solution. And then each of these points has the Z value to see where this thing is in space. You can see users can actually get a three-dimensional view for where this asset is, see the attributes tied to it. In this case, we have an eye wash or an indoor shower. And this information could be pulled up on a mobile device. This could be pulled up for users in the field to be able to actually navigate to the location for where they're trying to get. So it's that nexus of starting to take facility information along with utility information and combine it into views so users can get even more value out of these kinds of solutions. One example of a school that started with this and has been mapping their utility information for a number of years now is Cornell. And like almost every university we speak with, they manage a lot of utility information. In their case, they manage 12 distinct utility networks. And so they have a lot of data to map and manage and understand and try to pull together. So what they ended up doing is deploying ArcGIS Enterprise along with web maps to allow users to get access to that information on mobile devices and from browsers as well. So wherever someone's working, they can pull up the data they need to access. So they actually went through with their results and they automated their workflow of getting CAD information to GIS, that conversion process. And they found, and I've seen this time and time again, the most valuable result from these has just been the ability for users to get access to attributes. So if you're in the field or if you're trying to find when a valve was last inspected or last rotated or what that position should be, you can see and click on it and just get that pop-up of information right in front of you. And then the last pillar that I wanted to speak to was public safety with GIS. And so similar to utilities and facilities, our users on campuses use GIS and public safety for a range of different use cases. And these are just a couple samples of the ways people are using the information and using the GIS to help them. One of the ones I wanted to call out here was in the top right-hand corner for event management. And this is one that ties directly to the digital twin story. Traditionally, trying to manage events or understand what is taking place in real time, and still to this day is sometimes an exercise of getting a big piece of paper, marking it up, putting it on the back of a patrol car or at a station, and trying to mark up where stations are, where officers are going to be deployed, or where a first aid station might be. And that plan is very hard to have be a dynamic updating process where multiple stakeholders can share and see that information. And so this is a place where GIS, you can start to create that dynamic view of data that in real time, users can see and add to it and understand what is taking place. So now let me jump to a demonstration on the public safety side. A simple classic use case of GIS for public safety is the ability to take real-time crime information and share it into a dashboard or share it into a web application for users and the public or students or faculty to be able to see and interact with. In this case, and I think one of the most powerful pieces of the technology is we're here at Drexel University, and you can see the University of Pennsylvania right downtown here as well. But we don't have a view just at the campus public safety information. You're also able to pull in feeds or data from multiple agencies and multiple locations, or it could be traffic or weather or any other data that could help broaden that operational picture for what story you're trying to present. One of the ones that was a use case we saw get deployed a number of times over the last year was one to understand site safety related to COVID and the coronavirus. And this is a solution and a deployment and a configuration that can be tweaked and modeled for a number of different things. And it's not tied just to this one use case. I love the idea of using this for opening day or a return to campus, where you can quickly inside of the map and allow a way for users to configure spaces and what the capacity of those are, and also create issue reports or incidences, and then update these in real time as things get closed or there's more information that comes in. And as the capstone, it's tying together utility information, it's tying together public safety information, it's tying together facility information in real-time space. In this view, we have a dashboard with cameras. We're seeing the number of security reports that are coming in. We're seeing the date that those are issues and getting ranked. Breaking down those security reports by the priority to understand what needs to be taken care of first and what the most critical incidents are on the campus. So these dashboards and these views, you can start at a very small, a very low level with just very simple information, like I did with that first campus view, where it's just the outline of a building and the locations of AEDs. And you can build it all the way up to start getting a real-time snapshot, a digital twin of what is taking place in your physical environment, and get that in a digital view. So we saw this come together with facilities, with utilities, and for public safety. And those are the three focus areas that we've been working with campuses and the campus community with for this past year. So certainly if you have any questions, please enter them into the chat box, and we would love to take care of them at the end of the presentation. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Justin.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. It's great information, and I love the demos. I'm sure, like most, when you see it in action, it's always a little easier to understand what we mean. So thank you again for those. And as I'm sure everyone quickly picked up there, Brian was able to answer many of the questions that we asked at the beginning of the presentation in regards to where specific rooms or items or assets are located on campus, right, as he walked through that. And that's really kind of the critical piece to this and why we're putting such a big focus on the digital twin concept, because we do really hear a lot of very simple questions around, what do we have and where is it? And because many institutions are so large and have so many assets and the floor square footage is so large, that it's a challenge to keep track of all of this and understand in kind of a single authoritative source what all you have and what condition it's in. So Brian, thanks again. Let's take a couple minutes here to just review some resources available to everyone and some actions they can take if they'd like to work with us or get started on their own. So let's go to the next slide, Brian. Thanks. So to start out, top left there, we have a Smart Campus Operations Experience Builder application. Brian, I don't know if you could add that to the chat, maybe the link, if possible, while we're going here.
Yeah,
but
I'll do that.
For everyone who hasn't seen this, there's a lot of great information here. We have some foundational resources around just setting up the ArcGIS system. There's case studies. We have some public-facing examples. Links to some of our Esri solutions. There's COVID-related resources. And then there's also Brian and I's contact information on the Experience Builder app. We also have, I believe I added those links to the chat window. We have direct pages for ArcGIS Indoors and the digital twin, which Brian referenced. And so there's a lot of information available on those sites. I would highly recommend reviewing those. And then also, as he brought up, the ArcGIS Solutions page. We are working to align a page with the education sector. As of right now, though, you can browse through many of the different sections, and a lot of these solutions are applicable to the higher ed space. And I'm glad Brian mentioned that it's also applicable on the academic side as well. Students can certainly be deploying and using these solutions as these are kind of the latest and greatest out of the box technology from Esri, right? So not just effective on the operations side of the house. So I'd highly recommend you all take some time to review these resources. The links, as I said, are in the chat. And then you can certainly reach out to, to Brian and I if you have questions. All right, next slide, Brian. Thanks. So what do you do if you'd like to get started? What are the actions that you can take? The first is if you know your Esri account manager, I would highly recommend reaching out to them directly. They will have an understanding of your current licensing. If you have licensing in place, they'll also be able to connect you internally with the correct folks inside of Esri, depending on what solution or what it is that you're looking to do. And this isn't just in regards to the digital twin or ArcGIS Indoors. This is across our entire system. So reaching out to your account manager, would be the first line there. From there, you could also reach out directly to me if you have specific questions around Smart Campus Operations. Both Brian and I would be happy to address those, work with you, understand what it is that you're trying to do there. And then we also have some previous webinars that we've posted on YouTube, all of which are available to everyone. You could certainly go watch those. Go to YouTube, type in Esri Smart Campus Operations. I think you'll find the majority of what you'd be looking for there. If you can't, you could reach out again to me directly and I can get you headed in the right direction there. All right, Brian. So I think that's it for me on the action side. Looks like we have right at 9 minutes left. So we can open things up for Q&A. And as Brian and I both said, and Alexa, please add add any of your questions to the chat box, and we'll answer them now, or try to. Brian, I see Tim is asking, are some of the demos public?
Yeah, no, good question. I guess, Tim, just if you want to send a note to Justin about which ones you're kind of looking for, just let me know, because there's certainly be, certain examples of those ones that we show that would be public, or specific ones that are public. I had probably 10 tabs open, so some of them are private, other ones are public. So just I'll put it back on that last slide, actually, so you can get Justin's contact information. But just send Justin a note, and we can send the links to you that are public, or help you with others if you're looking for different demonstrations.
Thanks, Brian. Brian, there's one here from Doug too, asking, are there any containers or solutions set up for steam or chilled water distribution systems?
Doug, I don't know if Doug tossed a softball to us or not, but great question. Great question, Doug. So there actually there's a number of templates, and there's some solutions that were pushed out for a district heating style network. So both chilled water, steam, pressure. And so there is a complete network model that was pushed out, and there's going to be a lighter weight network model that's pushed out, that kind of ArcGIS Online style one as well. But for right now, there's one for ArcGIS Enterprise that has the symbology, a full data model that you could take and build out a fully kind of connected, traceable steam or chilled water, or even a network with loops involved in it as well. So there's a lot there. And then I would say, on top of that, if anyone else is interested in that, one of our technical leads who put that model together is looking to work with utilities and campuses and others who are looking at deploying or curious to know more about what the functionality could be. So similar to the last answer, shoot Justin an email here, and we can connect on a call or send you some more information related to that model.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. All right, looks like we have a question here. Brian, I don't know if you can see the chat or not. Is there an ESR app solution for indoor modeling that does not involve GIS indoors?
Yep. Yeah, and I just finally figured out how to pause my screen, so now I can search and send some links to people. So let me look here quick. So the quick answer to that, before I drop the link to it in the chat, is a yes. So you can Google and just look for what's called the ArcGIS Field Maps data model or schema. But then I'm also going to just drop into the chat right here. We have a story map that we put together for a call recently called From CAD to GIS. And if you go in that, there's a link within that to the basic indoor model. And so you can use that to see what the schema looks like and start to stand that up for kind of an indoor GIS or an indoor way to get, have a dashboard, have mobile collection, see kind of the field maps application will actually, see, and you can have floor awareness within that. So you don't need to license ArcGIS Indoors for some of that kind of basic capability. You can do that right out of the box.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian.
And then, oh yeah, it looks like George had a question in there. And, I think the MSU has been a great case study and example. As Justin said, there's a number of others. Send Justin a note. We can send you some slides or links. Harvard was actually a really good use case. And one that I like there is that they actually stood it up for public consumption. So they have an indoors ArcGIS indoor application live that is, their campus viewer. So it's integrating the real-time bike availability for their, the city, I can't remember the bike program locally there, but the city bikes or, whatever the bike share is there, it says the real-time availability of bikes. They've got the transportation routes integrated in. So there's a lot of neat kind of other integrations that can be built into that view.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to that point, to George's comment, absolutely, if anyone would like to reach out to me or Brian to get contact information, for one of these universities that are doing great work, with our technology, absolutely do so. These folks obviously are busy, so we try to be the mediator and just make sure that they're available and willing to spend some time talking. The majority of them always are. So again, to George's point, if you would like to talk with someone in the space about what they're currently doing, the Harvard, Michigan State, University of Maryland, the University of California system, please reach out, because we can certainly get you in contact with those folks. And I'm sure they'd be happy to explain what it is that they're doing and the return that they're seeing from it. Great question, George. All right, Brian. Well, it looks like we've just got a couple minutes remaining. I don't see any more questions. So thanks everyone for attending this session. Brian and I certainly appreciate it. We are here to answer any questions that you may have. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And that's it. That's it for me, Brian.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, everybody. If you have any questions or anything else, or want to follow up with us, please just send Justin an email, and we can get a call scheduled or have a conversation. Would love to talk to anybody. So thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.